Hey everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. Okay, so what you're looking at is the J4X uh, platform for forex, obviously from Dukas Copy. Now, currently what I'm doing is it's easier for me to make videos here, is trying to test a variety of indicators. Now, I want to stress this is only for market entry. I've currently got my currency pairs that I want to watch or subscribe to, weighted out for certain trading conditions for a market entry, and then use the ATR, average true range, for the exit to set the take profit or stop loss or let it run. I don't think you can use stock indicators for that from the API here at Dukas Copy. So anyways, I've got a bunch of indicators I'm testing out, and what I'm trying to figure out is a variety of things. If you've been watching me, I've been testing for liquidity, volume, and the entry. Now, again, let me just stress that what I'm about to test for is entry only. I subscribe automatically on the interesting instrument or forex pair that I'm interested in. That being said, most likely for now will be volatility. But there is a factor to understand: is both volume and liquidity on highly volatile pairs. And one of the tricks that I picked up from my Telegram group is to probably just focus only on pairs that have either US dollar, euro, or Japanese yen, just for that volatility. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to test to see which ones are worth trading, because if let's say the spread's too high on a volatile pair like the South African rand and the Japanese yen, that might be a useless trade because I won't be able to fill it. Because there's just not enough liquidity and the spread's too high. So that's what I'm kind of currently testing. So not only that, I'm also testing to see for volume and whatnot. And there's a couple of articles that I went through. One was on, if I can find it. No, I can't find it. Okay, anyways, basically what we're trying to do here is test the entry, only the entry. I keep saying that. So right now I'm testing the, let me just fire up a couple of these. This is my indicator, so I'm doing a 1 minute chart. And then I've also got to fire up this one. So basically, there's three strategies we're running to test specifically on probably the most liquid currency pair, which is the euro US dollar. The other one would be probably US and the Japanese yen. And I'm also want to test the more volatile and more exotic ones like the US dollar, the South African rand, as well as the South African rand and the rand and the yen. And those last 2 days were the two most volatile that my script picked up. So let me just show you some of the results. So right now we're running this one on the using Renko, stock shift, and candlestick interval, specifically using stochastics. So that's kind of like what I'm looking for right now, just to see if I can get any kind of data. I'll do the analysis later. I'm also testing for the EMA, exponential moving average, as well as a MACD, to see if there's any data that comes out of this. So I'm going to record these as I go, and then of course I have my own strategy which I'm testing, which is really testing every minute. It prints out the last bid, ask, the spread, and then the regression, the RSI, moving average, using the EMA. I'm also measuring the CCI, the Commodity Channel Index, Obviously volume. Now I'm also testing out Fibonacci levels. For whatever reason, the first one gets displayed. I'm also using Chalkin 80 as well, an 80 line, and these are displayed every minute. So I'm going to let these run for a little bit. And again, this is for the Euro, US dollar, and then I'm also going to do the same thing running for a little bit, the US dollar and the yen, and then do two more, as I said, for the US dollar, South African rand, and the rand and the Japanese yen, just to see if we can get any form of data, which we're really testing to see if there's going to be any potential market entry using these combination of these indicators. Now, one of the things that I'm specifically looking for, just give me a second here, is my own, where I'm looking for, I want to show you this article here, and this is where this info is coming from. So what we're basically looking for are the best technical indicators for day trading, which is really what I'm doing. And the ones that we're looking for is volume. So the volume, that's why I'm using obviously the simple plain volume. But I'm also, as close as I can get using the API, is this Chaikin money flow. And then the other ones that I'm looking at are Fibonacci, because I see that a lot in the Bloomberg News app, just as a market entry. So I might be using it obviously the wrong way. And that's pretty well it. I mean, these are the reasons why I'm using this. But again, I'm using on my exit the ATR, which seems to work pretty good on whatever position I go on. And that's what a lot of the pros seem to use universally, or the most popular. Let's see what's going on here. So I can time these. So it's 2:47, so I should start doing my test for the other pairs. Okay, so let me pull up. Let's see how I can do this. Oh, I know what I can do. Okay, so I'll make a spreadsheet here. So just so people know, I do use I use Office Libre. So I just find the Office is too heavy for my Mac. I'm talking about Microsoft Office, and I'm not a big fan of Microsoft product anyways. So let me just see if I can do insert sheet. Before, we're going to call this Renko Stochastics, because that's what I'm really more interested in. Okay. So we shall create a spreadsheet. So we will call it indicator simple, and then the last one was the MACD. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is, all right, so let me just stop these strategies. This is Euro, US dollar, so I'll show you how this is done if you're interested. Okay, so the first one is, this is for Euro USD. Okay, so let me just get the MACD info. Now again, we're just doing this for simple. This is our MACD here. Okay, that's good enough. We'll do our simple indicator, or our stochastics. Stochastics. And then finally our simple indicator stuff. So this one. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, so that's all saved as one special spreadsheet. Okay, going back to JForex. So I'm going to clear out all these logs. And now, why don't we do the US dollar? Let me just clear that. Stop all. Oh, they're already stopped. Okay, so now I'm going to fire it up. But this time I am going to use the US dollar, Japanese yen. Okay, here we are. Everything else we shall keep as default. Fire up this guy. All right, and then we shall do the same thing for the US dollar, Japanese yen. Run. And finally, my big one. Now we got to do 1 minute, but we want US dollar, Japanese yen. Okay, I'll find it eventually. So many instruments in here in the Dukas copy. US dollar. There we are. It's 1 minute. Go. Okay, so I'll report back to let you know on the analysis, but that's the setup. All right, so we've been testing this US dollar, Japanese yen pair. Been running for a couple of minutes. Here's some of the data, but here's the important stuff. We want to see if we can get the stochastics and the MACD running here. So as it stands right now, I'm going to assume that there is data was generating obviously both the MACD and stochastics data. But the real test is, again, the liquidity and volume for the other pairs. So just give me a second here while I make a new spreadsheet. Let me just rename this to US dollar, Japanese yen. Okay, so now I'm going to copy in the same info as before and just copy the stochastic stuff. Put that into this one. And hopefully we get enough analysis. Okay, so to the MACD. So let me just get that. MACD. Hope you don't mind me doing this copy. And then of course we need the simple indicator. Okay, so lastly, oh yeah, I always gotta, that is blank. So let me just copy that. Okay, cool. Now, the next one is we're going to do the most volatile, but it has very liquidity. Hopefully you've seen a video I put out on that. So let me just kill these. So now we're going to do the rand against the Japanese yen. This guy right here. So let me fire it up. So now we're going to do the rand against the it's alphabetical, no. Okay, we'll find it. There we go. So that's the the rand against the Japanese yen. Okay, run. Let's run this guy. Next, the Renko. Stochastics, same thing. Okay, so we are now doing the okay, we'll find it. There we go. And lastly, the one other one. This one. Here we go. See what happens. Okay, so we are getting some data for this currency pair. Oh, you know what? Let me clear these messages. Let me clear these messages because I'll get confused with the other previous running of those sessions. So now they're starting to run. Okay, so they're still running. That's good. Okay, let's see if we can get some data, and I'll report back in the next segment. Hey everybody, just testing this the rand against the Japanese yen. So two things I can confirm here is there is no stochastic measurement at all, and no EMA MACD measurement at all, because they're not meeting these conditions. So that just goes to show there's not enough liquidity to meet certain conditions using any of these indicators. The other big test I wanted to show is the spread difference. Now remember, I'm on Duca's copy, so the spreads are fairly tight. They're really very insignificant between the more exotic pairs like the rand and the yen, US dollar, Japanese yen, and the euro against the US dollar. They're somewhat fairly low, the spread, so I think it's safe to say that that's not a concern, at least with Duca's copy. So I'm going to still continue doing some tests, and I'll do another test with the US dollar and the rand and see how that goes, but I'm not going to set it all up for you. But I'm going to make this and copy this in that spreadsheet. Yep. All right, so just hang on. I'll see you in the next segment. Okay, so now I've just set up a new round of testing for the US dollar against the South African rand. Just waiting for some data to come through. We can see here that there is actually some data coming in for the US dollar with the South African rand. So from what I'm seeing, it looks pretty safe to say the theory of, at least with the US dollar, you can do testing against that if it involves the US dollar. So that's a good sign there, just not with the South African rand against the Japanese yen. Okay, so I'm going to let it run for a little bit. And just so you know, here's the ranking that I ran a few days ago. So here are the two most volatile on the 5-minute data. As I said, the rand against the Japanese yen, US dollar against the rand, and then I'm going to also do a small test against the Hungarian, can't remember the name of the currency, but the Hungarian, US dollar against the Hungarian. Just realize that it is Friday at 3:22, so liquidity may drop off, but this is a sort of test that I did want to run. The other thing I want to capture is the spread as well, and measure that as well. So as I said, that's the two big purposes of this test. and I'll do it against those two other currency pairs, see how we do. Hello everybody, hopefully this is the last segment. So I've been running the US dollar, the Hungarian whatever, I can't remember the name of it. But you can see here that there is definitely some data being shown for the MACD, 1 or 2 now for the stochastic. And then the other thing I'm specifically watching is the spread, which is basically right here. And what I've noticed between the Rand and the US dollar HUF, HUF, the Hungarian, they usually just, the spread for all these currencies pretty well bounce between these ranges. So from my perspective, spread is really not a factor for Dukascopy, no matter what currency you're trading. As you can see here, this one as well is pretty low. So it just does not appear to have any effect. Now volume's a different matter. So let me just go back and stop all these strategies, copy them into the in the spreadsheet. One thing I will say I'm noticing with forex, the platform, it is really chewing up a lot of processing. So when you do go live, I probably would have to have it on a dedicated system, just because I guess it's the way it is, which is fine. Let me just make sure I delete all this stuff, copy it back in. Okay, just give me a second here. All right, so we want that. MACD, we are going to copy. I'm just recording this, logging it just for comparison purposes. MACD. And then get these, we'll do a comparative on the volume, which is obviously the next big one. So the only one that didn't generate any form of MACD or stochastic was the Rand against the Japanese yen for whatever reason. I guess there's not enough liquidity for that. Or a copy. And we should be done. Okay. So I'm sure I can get some deeper analysis, but what I wanted to do with this particular test, as I said at the beginning, is to test the spread and the liquidity for the more popular currency pairs against the volatile ones that we've noted. So again, here's the summary. The spread has nothing to do, or has no factor in Dukascopy when it comes to your trading. That seems to be the case. It's very low, and it has really no marginal effect on your costs of your trading opportunity, and it seems to be somewhat consistent throughout now actually I should reverse that, because these are individual pips, so they'll cost you 1 or 2 pips here and there, but as I said, from what I'm seeing is that the factor of impacting on your actual P&L seems to be fairly minimal, and that seems to be the case. Okay, so now let's take a look at the volume. So again, what we've done is we've looked at the more volatile pairs. Here's the rankings from 2 days ago on the volatility of a previous script that I've shown in my testing in my videos. So here, these are the ones that we are looking at for the more volatile. These two pairs, the rand against the yen and the US dollar against the rand. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one for volume. So let me just load that puppy up. So we are looking at, let's say this one, the rand against the, ooh, do I have a file? Okay, so we want this one, I'm hoping. Okay, here we go. So when I look at, let me just look for the word volume. So there's our volume, 133, 147, 154, 157, 161. So let me pull up a more volatile or more stable popular currency pair. We are going to try the Euro US dollar. So again, let's check out the volume. So now remember, we're doing a Friday afternoon, so this is not typical, but we're trying to get some comparative, which that is quite interesting that the volume is on par with the Euro US dollar. I'm kind of surprised by that. So let me just make sure I'm not seeing any trickery here. Yeah, it looks like there is very little. Now, when I looked at the open interest of the bar data, it was very low. I put up a video on that in the past. That is quite odd. Okay, so let's do a comparison of the US dollar and the yen. So we want the US dollar and the Japanese yen. Okay, so let's do the same thing here. So looks like the volume's quite low on this currency pair here. Okay. So it's a little lower actually than the other two pairs that we've looked at. Quite interesting. Again, it might be a time zone thing because of how Japanese may be closed. So that might be a possibility why this currency pair is so low, because as I said, Friday afternoon Japan's probably closed, so there's very little trading coming out of Japan itself. Last pair that we're looking at is the rand against the, or US dollar against the rand. Let's check out that volume. Yeah, seems no different. You can see it's 176, 162. Again, these are minute bar data. These are 1 minute snapshots of volume on those 1 minute bars that I've been running for the last couple hours. So again, there seems to be very little impact, at least in the world of Duca's copy. Quite interesting. All right, so I don't think at this point, I should do this test again on a typical day like my time, which I'm Eastern Standard, probably do it around middle of the week on a Wednesday. But from what I'm seeing so far, there is no impact. All the spreads are the same, and the volume levels are fairly similar too. Quite interesting, but it confirms that. So maybe my strategy still is valid to just go after the volatile pairs or the swing ranges that I'm after. All right, so I'm hoping that'll help you out and understand what I'm trying to do here, and let me know what you think. Over and out. Later.